Her name is Mary Gamble, and she's one of the up-and-coming female creators in the sports card space. She busted on the scene a little bit over a year ago, and her content following and the card deals she has been doing have been growing exponentially. Today, Mary's going to be here in the studio with us, and we're going to get to talk to her, not just about her content, but also the business side of sports cards for her. She's really honed in on football cards and case hits. We're going to talk to her about why that is, how she's making money flipping those cards, and how she learned cards and got into this to begin with, and on a quickly accelerated path, going from being brand new at all of this just over a year ago to now doing many high stakes card deals all the time. So without further ado, we'll bring Mary into the studio. Mary, welcome to the Geoff Wilson Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's been awesome having you here inside Cards HQ.
Yes.
You arrived yesterday and have been already kind of filming some content. You're here for the weekend.
Yes, I've been having so much fun because it's such a big store to be a part of, and you guys have done so much in such little time. So I'm so happy to see it in person. Yeah,
I'm glad you were able to come. We tried to make it a playground for content creation, right?
Yes.
When we designed the store, we designed it with the idea of not only do we want it to be a good retail experience for people who walk in the door here in Atlanta, but we want it to be an experience that can be broadcast to the world through content, through live selling, all those types of things. And so, and we're just scratching the surface of that. There's a lot more that I want to do, like when it comes to being live in the aisles and all that stuff. The idea was like, how can we make it content friendly, and how can other creators come in and have kind of a playground of things to work with to be able to create, social content, YouTube videos, all that type of thing from. So I'm glad you're having a good experience.
No, I'm having so much fun. It's exactly like you said. It's like a playground. I was like filming the tour video yesterday, and I was just sitting like on the couch in the slab, being like, you can even put videos here, like all over the place, and having so much fun. So it's really cool to see like anyone can come in and feel welcome and a part of it. So it's been awesome to be a part of, and I feel like even just like the art and the attention to detail has been so crazy.
Thank you.
I thought of literally everything.
Thank you. We put a lot of effort into it, so I appreciate you saying that. Well, we've been excited to have you here because you are definitely an up-and-coming creator in the sports card space. I've been tracking you for probably, I don't know, the last year or so now, and have been watching your Instagram grow and that type of thing. And it's been impressive.
Thank you so much.
And I've been seeing a lot more activity there. You kind of took on your own personality and your own kind of way of doing videos and Instagram and everything earlier this year.
Yes.
And the growth's been impressive. You've been going to a lot of card shows, doing a lot of fun things. For the audience who maybe isn't familiar with Mary Gamble, tell them kind of how you got into this.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm trying to think. So last year, a year and a half ago, I was with a close friend, and they were like, okay, why don't we tomorrow? I just had heard from Hitman Rips to go to the show in Dallas. Let's fly. It was like 12 hours away from the time to get on the plane. So we woke up, flew to Dallas. That was my first card show ever, a little over a year ago. I just had so much fun just like meeting new people. Like obviously I was so new to the space, and just like everyone was obviously a new face to me. So it was really cool to just like deep dive in. And I think the whoa factor was like their trade nights were crazy and like just brought a community together. And I think that's a big part of kind of what has led me on this journey and kept me going is the positivity and how many people are so passionate about the hobby and about, growing the hobby in an amazing way. So yeah, I was at Dallas, and then I ended up, it became vastly addicting to go to all the shows around the US. So me and my friends started going to every show, working our way to Burbank in California, to Dallas every other month, and making it super consistent. So I feel like I was at shows maybe at least 3 times a month. But at the time I had a corporate job. So I was trying to learn it as I go, but I was being the supportive friend for a very long time. And then like fast forward like 6 months into it, I was like sitting at the booth and I was like, I am so frustrated on not being in conversation with these people. Like, it's definitely like a new language for me. Like, what can I do to like be a part of the hobby and actually like sit at dinner and actually be included in the conversation or, you know, contribute to it. So I ended up deep diving it and kind of through like some of the mutual friends, kind of asking, you know, there's no dumb questions, but just the questions, the surface level questions of the hobby. And I got really, really intrigued with it and collecting and buying, and I'm still learning to this day since I'm so new, but it's been an incredible journey. And I think the best part and what I say to other people to inspire them to join the hobby is to travel. And if you can't travel, then go to your local shows and, you know, get their Instagrams or numbers of people you really like as genuine people and genuine friends, and just go from there and asking the right questions. And yeah, so it's been such a journey, but it's been so awesome.
That's really cool. That's a lot in a year.
Yes.
So when you went to that first Dallas card show about a year ago,
yes.
A little over a year ago, I think you said, did you know much about cards at all at that time?
No. Well, my friend and I, we would look at breaks. So I think while I was maybe like hanging out with him, I would hear overtime breaks or overtime rips in just the background noise. And I kind of knew the quarterbacks. And at the time, it was like my second season getting into like watching football and being super inspired by watching football. So I knew that background and I knew like autographs and everything, but I didn't know like the intricacies of like panini and tops and, you know, the sub levels and the variations. And I'm still learning it. I feel like it's an endless learning, but it's been super incredible to just be a part of it. So
what changed? You said about the first 6 months or so, you were going to some of these shows and you were more kind of, it sounds like more in it for just the community aspect and meeting a lot of people and that kind of thing. And then at some point you switched and said, okay, I actually really want to dive deep into the card game itself. I want to learn the cards. I want to understand, you know, good ones to buy, flip, you know, that whole thing.
Yes.
What kind of switch for you? Like, why did you decide to dive in that way?
If I'm being completely honest, there was like a 12-year-old that came up to our booth once. And I think this was like the turning point into being like the supportive friend going to the shows. This 12-year-old, I'll never forget. He came up to our booth and he was just like, you know, just spitting the knowledge of cards. And I think he looked at me and said something pretty smart and was like, she doesn't know anything, all of this stuff. But he ended up like telling me his story, and it really got me intrigued. And I was like, oh, you have like 13, 14 years on me, but I'm super excited. And do you mind if like I get your Instagram and ask you questions, even though you're a 12-year-old? So I think that kind of was a turning point for me. And then from there on out, I think it spiraled into, I would leave my office on Friday afternoon and I would fly to the next show. I would go open Show Locator and see what shows were out there and just go to each one and meet up with my friends there and support them in what they're doing, but then also like learn on the back end for me. So
cool. That's awesome.
Yes.
So are you still working this corporate job?
No.
You're in this full time now,
yes,
right?
Yes, I'm in this full time. Okay. Since the end of February, I ended up switching over and ending my corporate journey. And I didn't know where this would take me. I was kind of just buying and selling cards, kind of just wanting to increase my investments so that I can get my PC cards. And it ended up being that I ended up taking some time off of corporate and then deep diving into cards. And then I made a video. I was really bored one day and I made a video on an Instagram reel just on my floor in my room because I was like, I should probably talk about the cards that I buy just because everyone loves the downtowns, the kabooms. Like at the time I was really only buying case hits. So I ended up like sitting on my floor, like doing a pickup video, and it did pretty well. And then the next week was actually, and this was 6 months ago, the next week was Dallas. And so I ended up just consistently trying to make videos and then slowly doing daily videos. So it's been an incredible time like in the space as a content creator now and like pivoting into that.
What's cool is that you can there's still opportunity as a content creator to get into the space today, right?
Absolutely.
When I got in 5 years ago, it was much easier for me to grow because there wasn't much out there in terms of competition. There weren't that many people creating sports car content. Today it's pretty crowded, but you still found a way to get in, find a niche and build audience in a relatively short period of time.
Yes, for sure. I've been trying to I think a lot of me traveling to all the shows, there is sometimes some like animosity of like seriousness in the hobby. And I kind of just wanted that my goal was to create a community where, you know, anyone can join. I definitely want more girls to get into the hobby, like from them being kids. And even though like you are kind of intimidated in the space of being super male dominated, to just like join and everyone is welcome. And I wanted to create a space that was more fun and uplifting. And sometimes it's not as serious in the industry. Like if you go to a show alone, like sometimes it can create seriousness. And I wanted to kind of break that barrier and say that everyone's welcome and it should be a fun environment. That's what, you know, the hobby's all about.
Yeah, and let's talk about that because your story is unusual in the fact like we hear a lot of men saying, I want to quit my job, I want to go into the hobby full time, or maybe they actually do it and they take the leap and they go to all these card shows and do all these things.
Yes.
But that story coming from a female perspective, that's a much more of an unusual story. Yes. Not one we hear very often, one that I think we should hear a lot more often, but we don't.
Absolutely.
Was that extra difficult for you because you were a female and kind of doing this thing that's different than maybe what most have?
Definitely. I feel like in the beginning, it was definitely like, I feel like you're spotlighted because just like my friend said, I was on the phone with my friend the other day and they were like, you know, it's not just you, it's that there's not many girls in this space. So when you walk around the show, obviously people are going to notice you more. So it's kind of more like you're spotlighted pretty fast in a way that, you know, it could actually be on the negative side. And some people in the hobby would come up to me like vendors and think that I wouldn't know things. And I think that's maybe what my nervousness was and my hesitation to getting into the space content wise, because I didn't ever want, you know, like the comments. But at this point in time, I would say that like you kind of have to ignore some of the, you know, the critiques and what people will say and, you know, just do what you love and spread the space. But for sure, it was hard in the beginning. Definitely.
Yeah. And that factor, I think, does make it difficult. As you said, it makes sense. You have the spotlight on you. My younger sister, Amber, she's had a career in sports broadcasting. Okay. She works for ESPN. Wow. And, you know, she's faced that. There's kind of this bias amongst male sports fans that female sports reporters, they don't know as much because they're a woman. They didn't play football or, you know, whatever. And so she's faced that on and off, you know, throughout the course of her career. Those things happen.
Definitely.
I imagine within the world of sports cards that probably is even stronger of a bias at this moment among certain dealers.
Definitely.
Among certain people in the industry. The good thing that you did is you said, well, if certain people feel that way, I'm just not going to pay attention to that. I don't care about that. I've got thick skin. Some people don't.
Yes.
And for some people, that factor alone is intimidating enough that would be a prevention barrier to stop them from doing what you just did.
Definitely. And exactly like you said with your sister, I think the space, like a lot of people, they'll either message me or they'll see me and they're like, wow, you have such an advantage being a girl. Like, I'm sure you get good deals. But on the other side, which I would say is like 20% that, but like 80% is that you'll walk up to a booth and a guy will assume exactly like you said that you're uneducated. So it'll be that a card is valued, like last sale was $600. They're going to be like, oh, this is $1,000 firm. And so you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to walk away because I actually know my stuff. But they're intrigued with seeing, and like, I think they're testing you to see if you are educated.
Well, good to hold your ground on that for sure.
Yes, for sure.
Now as part of your learning journey and getting into this more, it looks to me from looking at your content, like you've kind of zoomed in on particular types of cards and one particular sport in football.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Okay. So I grew up with a brother and a dad. So it kind of made sense to go into such a male dominated space, kind of like you said, with like just kind of having thick skin with growing up around like males all the time. So with that, like going into the hobby, I think that I kind of wanted to just be organic with it and kind of choose what I really liked. And just, I think at the time it's not as huge as it was last year, but I was like, I'm gonna just start it from like a small, easy sector. So downtowns, Optic downtowns, Donruss downtowns, they do really well in the market. So I'm gonna buy those and I'm gonna invest in those, and those are gonna be my first cards. And I obviously do like them because I'm a girl and I like the eye appeal and the cartoon sector of the cards. And one of my first card buys last year was an Aaron Rodgers downtown. And I just really liked the art, so I bought it. So it was like an eye appeal on going into football. And I only really have genuinely watched football and like enjoyed football. So I'm still so new and I'm still learning in the hobby and also football, because this is going into my third season of like actually deep diving football. But I think that's really what intrigued me. And then going from there, I know, like, I feel like I do the MVPs of basketball, which I just kind of like their autos just because they're from like years ago or whatnot, like Larry Bird. And then I think the biggest and most difficult one for me had been baseball, because it's a hard watch for me and I'm trying to get into figuring out the rules and everything. But then also with the industry, the prospects is just so confusing to me, and so many people, like you'll ask one friend and then the other friend, and they'll have a different stat for different prospects that they're trying to get into. So it's definitely baby steps into learning.
Yeah, and with baseball it's a little nuanced as well, because you've got both the first Bowman cards to chase, you got Topps rookie cards for the guys, and so there's some nuance there with the products as well, like what products are best for what player for what year and all this kind of stuff. A little more nuance. Baseball took me a little longer to learn as well. When I got into cards, I naturally gravitated towards football. It's my favorite sport.
Okay.
And basketball. And I didn't know baseball as well.
Exactly.
But I've force myself to learn it more, to appreciate it more. I go to a lot of the Braves games. I keep up with it more than I used to. And I've learned the products, and the products are different. The way Topps does things are different than the way Panini does things.
Super.
But there's a lot of cool nuance to how Topps does things that I've grown to appreciate.
I do too. I agree with that. I think that since I was learning like the colored prisms and the numbered prisms of football, going into like learning the different colored refractors and kind of what people are, what is respected in the hobby, has just been such a different learning curve for me. But it's super cool because it just like opens it into like such a different part of the industry. Yeah.
It's gonna be fun to learn when Topps starts coming out with their football set soon and their basketball set soon. It's a whole
it's gonna be
whole new world of things to learn. But I think what you did was very smart. I in my Sports Card Investor 101 videos I do and everything like that, as I talk to newer collectors, I often say, start with a small part of the hobby and learn it well. start with one sport primarily, potentially start with a sport you know best, and then kind of zoom in on particular sets or particular types of cards and learn those really well.
I totally agree
it's better to have like a lot of expertise around one area and know what you're talking about and learn how to know what you're talking about, rather than to like dabble in a bunch of different areas but not be confident in what you're doing.
Yes, because if you spread yourself too thin, I feel like I totally agree with that, because then you're just super overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much to learn in the first place.
There is, I mean, and it takes years and years and years.
Yes.
I mean, I got back into the hobby seriously in 2018. I was into it as a kid, was out for many years.
Yes.
Got back into it seriously in 2018. And so now about, 6 to 7 years that I've been back into it real seriously. But there's still 90s basketball inserts which pop up, that ones that I haven't seen before, but and then you see all these niche collections. 90s basketball has been this big learning curve area for me.
I'm sure.
Because that goes real deep, like the 90s basketball inserts. Like you've got the collectors in that market that are just so hardcore about it.
Yes.
And they have all of these like rankings of how all the different inserts compare to each other in their minds. And some of them are super rare, but you almost never see them. So as a collector who's unfamiliar with it, you don't even have the chance to get familiar with some of it, because it's like some of these are so rare that they almost never pop up and they're hidden back in collections. And so I've learned a lot more about that, but I still wouldn't say I'm an expert on 90s, 90s inserts.
Even in general, like you said, like I think it's the decades of baseball leading from like the 50s on. It's like the no buys and then the buys. You need to learn like that and what the decades of football that is valuable as well. Yeah.
And of course you had the junk wax era. You had a lot of different time periods where the cards weren't as sought after. They were printed really high.
Yes.
Other times very rare. So there's a lot of nuance. And then you could go back into like pre-war cards.
Yes.
And that's its own, like I have met with some of the collectors of pre-war cards who have 20 years of deep collecting knowledge just around pre-war.
Yes.
And they're still learning little nuances of certain old judge cards or all these the knowledge is so deep and specific.
Yes.
And you multiply that across all the sets, all the sports, all the years.
Imagine.
Yeah. So, I mean, honing in on particular things to get started, I think is really smart. So you did that with football, sounds like with downtowns.
Yes.
So today, you still do a lot of football today.
I do.
Why like the case hits? Because you pay a lot of attention to those, it seems.
Yes, I think genuinely, even though they're like so liquid in the market and you can't really go wrong with them, I think I love eye appeal cards, and I know a lot of people do. But I just like love the art behind them, and even if you're like on a break and someone breaks, either the gold Kaboom or like a gold Downtown or a black Pandora, like it just raises so much excitement in the hobby and everything. And I think I come from a background being a girl. I like girly things and glitter, and like I think that these are like the equivalents of that in the hobby. So I think that's why I go for them. But just those. And then I think now, just like you said, kind of getting back into generalizing my buys and everything. I really do like I love rookie patch autos, and I love buying the different RPAs that have their eye appeal and that are numbered. And it's kind of also cool to go down the rabbit hole of, if it's numbered to 10, how do I find the value if there's no recent sales, and kind of trying to go into the market and being like, okay, this player did well at this time and he has an out of 10 in a different market like Spectra or something. How can I like value it? So it kind of is like a little test to knowing your values and everything. So it's been super, super cool.
It is a puzzle to figure out for sure.
It is.
Yeah, my son Reeves, you'll see him at trade night, and he just absolutely loves football cases.
Okay.
That's his thing. That's like all he likes to do. Football
I'll
cases.
have to ask him for his PCs.
Downtowns are his favorites. Okay. So he's actually going to walk in a trade night tomorrow night. I think he's got currently 10 downtowns in his case. 10, yeah. He was showing me them the other day that he's going to walk in a trade night with. Now he's going to be probably reluctant to trade most of them because he actually wants to pick up more downtowns because he knows how going into, he knows how valuable those are going to other trade nights, other card shows and everything like that. That is one thing, with Topps taking over football and basketball here over the next couple of years, that is the one thing I am worried about. And I know they're trying to figure it out.
Yes.
But one thing Topps has not succeeded at is having case hits for baseball that have really gotten anywhere near the attention from collectors that Downtowns, Kabooms, Color Blasts, stained glass, micro mosaic, all those different Panini ones have gotten. And we don't baseball doesn't have that, right?
No.
And they tried this year, like with Top Series 1, they introduced their like the Bowman sketches, which look a heck of a lot like the manga sketches from Panini, right?
Like the anime cards.
The anime cards. And they have now their home field advantage cards, which look a heck of a lot like the downtown cards.
Yes.
I mean, they're definitely taking a lot of creative inspiration and like trying to figure out like, okay, well, Panini's having a lot of success with downtowns. How can we do that? We're going to call it home field advantage and do the same type of thing. Although the design isn't quite as sharp. It doesn't quite hit the same way. So they're still trying to figure that out, but they're perfecting it. It's getting better.
Okay.
But they need to fully figure that out, because
I totally agree, because it sets the market away. Like I think some people I ask nowadays, like even the younger kids and coming into it, I go, how did you get into the hobby? Kind of similar to my story, case hits. Like everyone wants the case hits, but I guess exactly like you said with Topps, it's like they might have to do something like anime, but use their speckle, like for like variations to like, come up with an actual eye appeal card for the buyers of them, for sure.
Yeah, eye appeal is so important for those types of cards. And the Kabooms look so good.
So good.
They look so good. The downtowns all look really good. The Color Blast look good. Yes. So when you pull one of those, it's like you have a really cool card. Stained glass looks good, although I think it looks less good today than it used to. They used to look incredible.
Yes.
That one's kind of been watered down. But the when you pull those out of Panini, you're like, oh, that's awesome. It's not quite the same right now when you pull them out of Topps products.
Yes.
So they did have the spotlight cards, like in Bowman. Those do look cool. That was one of the ones that they did come up with that have kind of a good eye appeal.
Yes.
But they need to get that figured out, because my son is terrified that Topps is going to, take over the football and basketball license entirely here in less than 2 years. So all of those things are going to end. Kabooms will end. Downtowns, there will be no more Kabooms in downtowns.
And those values, I guess, will go up too.
Maybe for some of the historic ones. Yes. I mean, that's interesting. Like, so for a guy, obviously with like the downtown cards, they produce not just the current players, but then you also have some of the all-time greats, like a Dan Marino or a Jerry Rice has a downtown. So what's interesting is when people realize, oh, there will never be another Dan Marino downtown, so that's going to be his only one that was part of the 2021 set or whatever it was.
Yes.
Maybe that actually does draw a little more emphasis on those.
Definitely.
But he's terrified of like a world where there's not new downtowns and new Kabooms and new Color Blasts every year. So
I think that they're going to have to get pretty innovative with it, just like going forward to, intrigue the market and everyone into the hobby and get them excited for it. Yeah. I've seen some of, since I'm not that educated with baseball, I've seen some of the series. I don't know specifically, but the new wax like has the like neon light kind of factor of the like fonts and everything. So hopefully they're like slowly getting on board with it. But I guess I'm pretty intrigued with how they'll do, since it's just been, I hope that it's easily like transferable to the different cases we have now. I hope so. I hope so, because I think that's a really important aspect to people getting attracted. I mean, as you said, you were attracted to these because of eye appeal and because of sparkle, right? Yes.
So we need more eye appeal and sparkle.
It's exactly
in Topps products.
Yes, and they kind of show a story. I don't want to get too far into it, but like you said, Dan Marino. Like I really like since it's the Miami Dolphins, that there's dolphins on it, or like the cows in Aaron Rodgers ones, or I think my favorite one specifically is the Patrick Mahomes ketchup one. To seeing his background and like loving ketchup ketchup. Like he even puts ketchup on waffles and everything. And having that story too is like crazy that it's eye appeal, but it's also when you look at that card, or all of them, they have so much attention to detail that you're like, oh, why is, this like dolphin on this, or why is this ketchup on this? And you do like this whole deep dive on their story and their background as a player.
Yeah, that's super cool. I agree. It's super cool. The Desmond Ritter downtown, which I actually saw you bought one recently.
Yes, I did.
They're not worth nearly today what they were worth a year ago, when unfortunately I was buying a lot of Desmond Ritter cards. That was a mistake at the time. But his downtown has the scene is there's all these all the sea life behind him, whales and sharks and all this stuff. And so probably a lot of people look at that and they're like, that's weird. Like, why does Desmond Ritter have like all these, like all this sea life behind him? Well, the reason why is because Atlanta has the largest aquarium in the Western Hemisphere. It's called the Georgia Aquarium. Wow. It's downtown, right near the football stadium. In the aquarium, there's this one part of it where you go on this like little pathway, and there's this wraparound aquarium that's like over your head and along you on the side. You're walking down like a little hallway, so you're surrounded, and so the big whales and everything are like above you, next to you. You're kind of surrounded. And they literally, the designer of that downtown card literally took that exact snapshot of like somebody in that one part of the aquarium, and they recreated that and then put Desmond Ritter there.
That's crazy.
So being in Atlanta, I instantly recognized it. I'm like, oh, I know exactly where that is. That's this one hallway in the Georgia Aquarium. So it's cool that the cards have that kind of story.
Super cool. Yeah. And like sometimes you don't even know the backstory of them. And like, I don't know. I think it's like a mystery too, just exactly like you said. Like it's specific to kind of what you follow and what you watch. And going into the season, I thought that the Dolphins had like a crazy season, so I kind of was watching them pretty and honing in on them, and then getting that Dan Marino downtown for the first time. It was just super cool to have that like background of like how like the environment of Miami is affected by the downtown or whatever it is.
Yep. Okay, so downtowns, kabooms, color blasts, stained glass, micro mosaic. Are there any other like major case hits there that you chase that I'm missing?
I think that's it.
So rank those for me.
Oh no.
1 through 5. Rank those for me.
Okay, so we have to start with downtowns.
Okay.
Downtowns has to be the number one.
That's still your number one.
It has to be number one. I think, which will throw a lot of people off, but I think micro mosaics might be number 2 for me.
I'm going to totally disagree with you there. I do not like micro mosaics at all. I do not. I don't like micro mosaics. I think they're ugly.
Okay, well, some of them.
And I also can't believe that we're beyond the top 2 and you haven't said kaboom yet.
I know. Well, we're getting to
so
that.
Sad.
That's number 3
okay,
for
good.
me, for sure.
All right, good.
Kaboom has to be number 3. Also, when I met you and you had the shoes, I was like,
yes,
he's my guy.
I love kaboom.
And then going into that, I think Color Blast has to be kind of down there for me.
Okay.
Yes.
You're not so excited about Color Blast. Or Stained Glass was the other one.
Okay, well, so yes, Stained Glass would be 4 for me, and then 5 would have to be Color Blast.
Color Blast dead last.
I think also, though, the intrigue of them, and maybe it would be farther up on my list if I had acquired more, but I do like the vertical ones. I really like the new vertical ones. The horizontal ones, I don't know. I mean, but it's a hard question because I like all of them. So, but I think that's my ranking.
Okay. What do you think of the dual color blasts that they came out with this last year? Like 2 players from the same team on the same card?
I like them.
Yeah.
I think I bought, I don't know who the second guy on the card was, but I did a Tank Dell one with.
Was that with CJ Stroud?
Did
they have the 2 of them?
I think it was Stroud
actually,
and Dell.
Yeah.
And I bought that. I really like that. I think I do like the black ones maybe more than the white ones, but I just kind of like the color highlight of it in the black background. But
I like the black ones too. The black ones are harder to grade.
Yes.
Those can be real tough to grade, but the black ones do look cool. I agree. I think the black ones you see in obsidian,
yes,
and then the white ones you see in prism.
Exactly.
The color blasts are actually really rare. They're more rare than the kabooms in the downtowns. So that may be why you don't see as many of them.
Exactly. It took me a long time to acquire a color blast. I think like 3 to 4 months into me buying cards, but going into like another case, it just like you were saying earlier, like the stained glasses. I totally agree with you. I think that the years before were a little more eye appeal than now. They're like a little more just green and blue. Yeah. And last couple of years, they were like kind of rainbowy color. And even going into that, like the collegiate ones I thought were pretty cool because it's like a maroon kind of matte color too. Yeah.
Now, if you go back, so the history of stained glass, if you go back to 2012 Innovations Basketball, that was the first year ever that Panini created a stained glass card. And in 2012 and 2013, those cards were actual see-through, where they actually looked like they presented like stained glass in a church. Yes. And you could hold it up to the light and it was like different panes of like colored acetate. Okay. It was so cool. So if you see any of those cards and you look at that and then you compare it to any of the stained glasses today, you're going to kind of be like, oh, okay. Like they're not as cool today as they used to be. So for me, they're a little bit of a letdown.
Okay. So I don't know, maybe this is a question for you. So I bought for my whatnot, because it's a lower end card, I bought a Dan Marino, I think it's called Clear Vision. Okay. Do you know, like, does that have anything to do with kind of what you're saying, or were those like just
those are acetate cards? I mean, it's similar in the fact that they are kind of a see-through acetate card. It's obviously a different design, but yeah, they still create acetate cards like that in different sets, but they've gone away from it with the actual stained glass. And the stained glass acetates are the ones that I thought were the coolest.
I thought they were so cool. I think that also like with like clearly Donruss, I feel like they're not as like hyped up as like anything else right now, but I do like, exactly like you said with the stained glasses, how you can just like hold them up to the light and just like see through them. And I don't know, I think that's a really cool
as you said, a lot of this is eye appeal, right? And so I think the element that adds is cool.
Definitely. And then I'm very new to like getting into the whole grading thing, but I heard they're like harder to grade and everything because of like the scratches, and they're a little more fragile, so it's cool to like see, and if some of them like gem as well.
Absolutely. Well, this has been awesome. Mary, what's next for you? Like, so you're doing this full time now. Are you supporting yourself through like the buying and selling aspect? Is that how you're kind of making your living right now?
Yeah. So mainly that is kind of just like my business model right now in the field. And I have fun doing videos, and I'm really hoping to get like some partnerships and just have fun. And I was so lucky, and it's been an awesome time and an awesome experience for me to come by Cards HQ and just see how you guys do it, because there's so much intricacy to your guys' team and the behind the scenes. So it's definitely like inspired me, and I appreciate the opportunity. It inspired me to maybe do some more things and travel to more places and meet more people. So I think just my whole goal to all of this was just growing a positive community and inspiring more so women, but anyone to join the hobby.
That's awesome. Well, I hope it works out fantastically well for you. You do a great job of content. And for anybody out there who's not following Mary Gamble, make sure to give her a follow. She does a lot on Instagram. You mentioned you're going to start doing your own YouTube as well. Okay.
Yes, it's coming very soon. So
Mary Gamble on YouTube, on Instagram. Yes. Are you doing TikTok?
A little bit of TikTok here and there. Yes.
There you go. So follow her everywhere.
Yes.
And keep up with her journeys. And you also list cards for sale there.
Yes.
You pick them up at card shows. You list them for sale. Yes. And so you've also some nice cards that you're selling at various times too. So.
Absolutely. I try to like give back to my followers in the best way I can, and try to get like a full lot of cards and have some room on them for people coming into the space and getting excited over cases or whatever it is, RPAs or anything. So I post them on my stories pretty regularly on Instagram.
There you go. Awesome. Well, this has been fun, Mary. Thank you so much for coming by the shop.
Thank you so much, Geoff. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for everybody out there, I want to remind you that the full old Geoff Wilson Show episodes are available on YouTube under the Geoff Wilson Show channel. They're also available on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. So make sure you are subscribed everywhere so you can listen to these shows on the go. We appreciate you, and we'll see you with our next one. Take care.